listeners and watchers now of the video. This is The Pitch of Discontent. I am Owen.
And I'm Paige.
And welcome to the new version of the show.
Yeah. The Pitch of Discontent to Pod to Furious. To show to Furious.
Podaloo?
Electric Podaloo.
Electric Podaloo? Yes.
Millennial ass bullshit. Please continue.
Thank you. Yes, we are now doing the show on video.
We are. It's weird. And I feel like I fucked up because I definitely did myself up for this. And I'm setting like a dumb expectation because I am definitely like more of a sloth girly.
Yes.
I love doing my makeup, but I usually love doing it to just sit around the house anyway.
Yes.
So that's fun, I guess.
And look, we fully support, and by we I mean me, the idea of you being able to come down and do an episode in your pajamas. Yeah. I think that's totally acceptable.
That should be an expectation I set early on.
I think so.
Because it will happen.
For people who might not be familiar with our show, if you're stumbling across this for the first time, we've been doing the podcast since November 2022.
Yeah.
And as you will see from the episode number, this is episode 159.
Yeah,
so we've done over 150 episodes of an audio-only podcast.
Yep.
That is exclusively available on Spotify.
Slowly grew like a pretty awesome followership and really loyal supporters. And then the platform, which will not be named, decided to...
That I literally just named.
Oh, that one that Owen just said, decided to completely like trash the particular software that is needed to create it in the format that it was in.
Yes. So for the newbies, our podcast is a music podcast.
Yes.
And the feature that we were using in Spotify allowed us to put full songs in the podcast episode.
Yeah.
So that you would hear us chat about it, then you would listen to the song, and then we would break it down on the back end, and it would function much like a radio show.
Yeah.
Kind of mixed with a playlist. It was, a cool thing. Spotify in their infinite wisdom have decided to disable that feature.
Yeah.
So old versions of the show, the full archive of 150 episodes will remain as they are. So you can go back.
Because it makes them money. So why would they remove those?
Yes. So you can go back and listen to old episodes of the show on Spotify. And over time, I will be slowly archiving them and putting them onto YouTube as well.
Yeah.
But for new versions of the show, we have now had to move to YouTube as the primary platform.
But it's kind of a blessing in disguise, I think.
I think so too.
Just a bit more accessible to a lot more people through that platform. It's a lot easier to market through.
Yeah, and it's allowed us to do like a little bit of a spruce and a rebrand of the show. We got a new logo.
Silver linings.
We got a cool new intro that features some cheeky little animations courtesy of Paige.
Yeah, I love those.
They're pretty dope.
I'm calling them our me's, like when you used to make a me in Wii.
That's some millennial ass bullshit right there.
But I also imagine if they could talk, they would talk like the Canadian characters in South Park.
Like fucking bobbleheads.
Yeah, what else is something they would say?
Relax, guy.
Relax, guy. Yeah, that's what I imagine they would talk like. Yeah, so that's been fun. We've had a lot of fun revamping.
Yes.
A little bit stressful, but, I think... You got to be able to pivot at the end of the day.
It's all about the pivot. So, look, we're going to keep the show as close to the original format as possible. We're still talking about music.
Yeah.
Still featuring songs.
Still trying to show people sick bands that they might not have elsewise heard of.
Yes. Now, we won't be playing full songs in the episode because of YouTube and copyright and various different bits and pieces.
Because they don't fall under copyleft anymore.
Yes. So you will hear bits and pieces of the artists and tracks that we talk about, and then I will make a full playlist of all the songs that you can find in the show notes. Mm-hmm. So you can go and listen to that. You can watch all the video clips, do all that stuff as well. That way you get kind of the best of both worlds.
And support alternative music.
That's exactly right.
Give back to the working artists.
Indeed. And I guess for returning listeners, we're still going to be doing the bonus episodes, which will be with guests.
Yeah.
We've got some exciting ones already in the can. I've been working hard on that.
have been.
Those are video episodes as well, so hopefully they look nice and schmick. And then, yeah, hopefully if you enjoy the show, follow us, subscribe, support
Come
the
to
show.
our house, give us treats
Yes.
and gifts.
Yeah, Reese,
Thank you.
Reese has been good. Reese is our dog for the newbies.
Oh, yes.
And he's been a very welcoming third host to
Oh
our
my
new
God.
guests.
I feel like Reese really helps take the edge off for all of our guests.
He's very disarming.
He's just so cuddly and he loves everybody. And who doesn't love a good dog snuggle?
He's quite literally the first thing guests see because he runs to the door.
Because he makes sure he is. Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
No, very disarming, very charming.
Yes, he is a dapper young gentleman.
He is indeed. I will have links in the show notes for our Patreon, which you can go and join and subscribe to support the show.
Like and subscribe.
We're going to have some cool stuff going on through there. I've got bonus content from all of our guest episodes, as well as some stuff that Paige and I are going to throw together to kind of juice the subscription value. But that way we can start paying for this shit and we can start making the show better.
Yeah, I think we have some big ideas, but often they get met with funding issues.
Totally.
And obviously got some day walker jobs that help with that. But
day walker.
It'd be really lovely if you wanted to, chuck us a couple of cents.
Yeah, we've had a really good...
No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
We love you either way.
We've had a really supportive community around the show. People sharing episodes, telling us that they like the show and the format. So we hope that this new and improved version of the show
doesn't take away
from it, but adds to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know in the comments. Do you think the show is good?
Yeah. Do you think it's shit? Tell us everything.
Fuck it.
Let loose, babies.
Engagement is key.
Yeah. Yep.
But no,
All
if
press
you
is good press.
have ideas for bands that we should feature, labels that we should check
Oh,
out.
yeah. It's honestly so sick when we have people who are fans of bands reach out, or the bands themselves. We've had a number of bands be like, hey, what do you guys think? It's just such an honor, and it really helps with the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
It's like you guys actually think of us enough as we know what the fuck we're talking about. Oh, cut the F out of that, because
we've already sworn multiple times. So
I think it's something like the first 10 something seconds or something. I don't know. We'll have to Google that later. But point being, it's nice, and it makes me feel like I'm not just some weird guy on the internet talking about music, and people actually like to hear what we have to say. So.
Yeah. And I mean, this is
it's meant to be fun.
This is a fun show, and it's a curated show.
Yeah.
So all of the bands that we feature, all the records that we're talking about, this is stuff that has come through my inbox that I've, followed and sought out. So, throw your recommendations at me.
It's literally his favorite thing in the world.
It is.
It is
quite literally.
Literally why this podcast exists.
Yep. Slightly in more serious fashion now, but that's the humble beginning that it comes from.
Started with every week Owen just sitting next to me on the couch and reading me his newsletter. And we were like, hey, we should record this.
Yep.
Because that's how narcissistic we are.
It was also COVID, so we wanted something to do.
We were also a bit bored.
Yeah. But no, from me just shouting out bands to Paige and be like, this album's dope, you should listen to it, to the newsletter I started in 2020 after I finished uni, to the podcast, to YouTube.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Our trajectory.
Music fan to YouTuber pulp line.
Yeah. Pulp line.
Pulp line.
Is that like orange pulp?
Yeah, I'm going to keep that in. Fuck it. Don't care.
Yeah, it's been a journey, and we've definitely taken a couple of kicks to the teeth for sure. But what's another fucking analogy? But we cut our teeth on the kicks.
Ah, nice.
Deep.
Good one.
Hashtag deep.
All right. Well, before we barrel into the main show, we usually shout out albums at the top of the show, stuff that we're not featuring in the main part of the show. The notes that I have here say, have we listened to BRAT? Because there's been a lot of BRAT discourse that we missed because we were away for 2 weeks getting this shit up and running. Have you listened to BRAT?
I'll be honest with you. As a queer girly, I mostly just have been listening to Chapel Roan for 2 weeks.
She has
she
dominated.
Has taken over my life. Yeah.
Basically, Sabrina Carpenter Espresso, which we talked about on the show previously.
I did mention at the time too, this is going to get old real fast because it's so catchy that it's just going to be I'm actually a little burnt out on it. And that's where I'm at now. I'm like, it's a great pop track. 10 out of 10, no complaints. But I just knew that the world would love it as much as I did and play it to death. And here we are, in my opinion.
So I was reading a newsletter this morning that said that like the contest for like Song of the Summer is basically like a three tie race between Sabrina Carpenter, Chappell Roan, and Charlie XCX. So like it's in there, but I'll admit I have not listened to BRAT, and I guess I need to do my homework.
I feel like Charlie XCX is not for me. You know, she's definitely like for younger, cooler chicks. Do you know what I mean? So like, I don't really get it. I haven't listened to the full track though either. So it's probably like an unfair analysis. I've only listened to like the weird sort of like rap talk bit that she does. And she has a really cute British accent. And I love that. And that part's good. So that's my feedback. But that's probably, I just don't indulge in her music because I'm just like, I'm not cool enough.
Yeah.
You know?
I know from reading, the discourse around the album that there was like a diss track against Lorde.
Oh.
And
that's the one I'm talking about.
And then she got Lorde to come on and do the remix where they like squashed the beef on the diss track, which is like kind of wild.
You reckon it was real or just like a PR stunt?
I have no idea.
Because like the whole Katy Perry, Taylor Swift thing seemed like cap to me, and it's just made all of those beefs so sussy ever since. I was just like, pfft.
I feel like the Kendrick Drake beef was real.
Yeah, I don't think you make a song calling someone like a predator without hating them.
Kendrick dropped a video for Not Like Us, which I watched the other day, and it's like a full vibe.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a level of artistic pedigree that you have to like drop a diss track that's like 3 or 4 songs into the feud, because they dropped like multiple songs
back and
as
forth
part of this like feud. So like Kendrick's like 3rd song is like not only a scathing diss track, but also just like a casual bop and a banger at the same time. And the video is like slick, professional, hood anthem type shit. And I was just like watching it and just being like, that's some wild shit. To like, essentially write someone off on record and be like, it kind of slaps though.
This is actually like a really marketable record. Yeah, for sure. He's insanely talented and has been since Hottest 100, 2000, and I'm going to say like, 10 or something? Yeah, man. Me and my friend Clinton would just like say Kendrick Lamar's like random lyrics to each other for no reason. Like he would just be like, "Bitch, where were you when I was walking?" Like out of nowhere, just all the time. It was a fun bit. I miss that guy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I feel like we've done a good intro for the show, the new format, the bits and pieces. All the details will be in the show notes, so you can jump in there and find all the links that we've been talking about. Should we jump in and do the main show?
We should do the actual bit now. Yeah, for sure. I think we've beat the intro to death.
Let's go.
Let's go, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm doing like the Hannah Montana transition sound.
First up for this week, it's a new band on my radar that I literally came across this morning when I was downstairs prepping the notes for this episode. So I've only been exposed...
It was meant to be.
Yeah, I've only been exposed to this band and this track for like 2 hours. So very fresh on the brain. The band is called Exploring Birdsong.
Okay.
And they are a melodic prog outfit from Liverpool in the UK. They've got a new single called Turntail, and it dropped through European label Long Branch Records, which is how I found them because I follow their YouTube channel. This thing is gorgeous.
Okay.
And I listened to it and I was like, Paige is going to eat this shit up.
Yeah,
so
it sounds like my
kind
of shit, for
put
sure.
it first up on the show.
Okay.
So vocalist Lindsay Ward has these hypnotic, beautiful vocals that kind of lilt and drift across a mainly piano-led instrumental.
Okay.
I listened to some of their older songs, and they do have more like post-hardcore-y, like traditionally rock-focused instrumentals. This one feels like a more stripped-back version of what they normally do, but still very engaging. So she's backed by drummer Matt Harrison and then guitarist, bassist, and synth player Johnny Knight, who's doing the piano.
Shit. That guy's talented.
The track gets like...
He like clicked all of the virtuoso levels on The Sims for himself.
Yeah. Man of many talents. The track gets surprisingly heavy, but in like a very rhythmic way, which you'll hear like when we play it. Very like drum and bass oriented. Cool. It almost sounds like there's no guitars at all or very little guitar layers. And then the video is just this very like eye-catching, emotive kind of video that pairs beautifully with the instrumental. So the whole thing was great. And as soon as I watched it, I was like, well, that's going in the fucking episode. So there we go. So some info about the band. They dropped their second EP, Dancing in the Face of Danger, back in March of last year. And they are currently working on their debut full-length album.
Oh, shit.
So we'll get some more info about that.
Really like on the pulse of it.
Yes. On the release of Turntail, I have a quote from the band, and they say, "The first version of the song was actually written long enough ago that we were considering to be a part of our debut EP, The Thing with Feathers, which came out in 2019.
Okay.
Where Turntail differs...
Great year for music.
Where Turntail differs from The Collapse, however, is we always knew that there was a great song in there somewhere. The chorus we feel is one of the strongest we've ever written, and we didn't want to force releasing a song we think may benefit from a revisit later down the line.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we feel the wait has paid off, and the version of Turntail that you hear today is something we're really proud of."
I think that's such a great decision, because giving it enough room to breathe and grow can always be, it can lead to like a bit more of a creative environment is the word I'm looking for.
I think any creative, any kind of artistic medium should always have a drafts folder.
Yeah.
Should always have a drawer of shit that you're like, I'm going to come back to
This is
that.
like the seed of an idea, but it's not quite there yet.
It's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you look at my hard drive, I got so much shit of just like half-written essays, notes, bits and pieces, dump folders, like heaps of stuff. So I get it.
I feel like also imagine if you did just like rush it through and then you take something that you loved, i.e. the chorus of that song, and then the rest of it sucks. You would just be like heartbroken.
We've already released it.
Like, what can we do
so
now?
Now it has to be like a remix or something.
Yeah.
Like, no, let it cook. Let it simmer.
Let it cook. Let it cook.
Okay, well, do you want to hear it?
Nah.
Oh, okay. It's not the show or anything, but sure.
Of course I want to hear it.
Okay, well, let's have a listen. This is Exploring Birdsong, Turntail.
Okay.
To cut to the bone, to follow your way back home. You've been lost all along.
Thoughts?
Crazy. Okay, first thing that I thought was that it totally sounds like the English version of the Japanese songs that fans would use to do fan edits of Final Fantasy cinematic clips back in the day.
That's an extreme...
They're still out there, baby.
There's an extreme deep cut, but...
Man, that's how I found Flyleaf, I'll have you know.
Right, okay.
But I think it might have been World of Warcraft, that particular edit.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, it's gorgeous. It's so pretty. The bassy like EQ through that kit is just like... It's very earthy. I also was like, what's the opposite of the word wanderlust? Because is it just homesick? It's like it seems to be talking about a yearning to returning home after like a big magical trip. And it's just like, I'm ready. I've gotten it out of my system and I'm ready to go home. Is that what the message of the song is?
I mean, that's kind of like the origin of like nostalgia.
Yeah.
Is like...
Yeah.
And like wanderlust is kind of more of like a physical like flight and like travel version of that. But I mean like the root of nostalgia comes from like the 17th or 18th century where like soldiers would go and fight like brutal kind of wars and then they would get like essentially depressed and homesick to want to go home back to their simpler lives. And that's where the root of nostalgia comes from. Like it was like a diagnosis of like, oh, what's wrong with fucking Johan?
He has
He
nostalgia.
has nostalgia for home. He wants to return.
I mean, you don't need to diagnose that because sending people out to die will make them sad for home, I think.
Yeah.
But also sometimes I feel like I have no intellectual curiosity. I've used the word nostalgia my whole life, I'm sure. And I've never been like, what the fuck does that mean? How do you keep all this in there?
I don't know. It's not like an active thing that I do, but I read a book about it, which was kind of talking about like our modern obsession or contemporary obsession with nostalgia.
It's had a big thing lately, hasn't
And
it?
it kind of explores like, okay, well, where does this thing come from?
Yeah.
And then how has it been twisted by capitalism into its modern version? But for people watching, the book is called The Hours Have Lost Their Clock.
Shout out.
I love this song.
I also really love this.
I think it's
song.
gorgeous. And I think the like very bass heavy EQ that you're talking about really just kind of works because Lindsay's vocals are
so like high end and airy and beautiful.
The mix doesn't really need anything else around it. So it's just like that piano line, that vocal line is kind of all you need.
Yeah.
And then that rhythmic kind of pulse behind it. It's perfect.
She has insane vocal control. Like the way because like your girl has vocal fry and it's not for spice in my singing. It's because I've fucked my vocal cords over the year. Yep. And to be able to like have, like you can hear every breath come out. It means that there was a really good engineer involved, really good equipment used, and a really talented singer. And you love to see it, folks.
Yeah, I love to see it. I'm going to keep my eye on the band and kind of wait for them to put out this record that they're working on. They put out a song back in February called The Collapse, which is the other one I mentioned, more of like a post-hardcore sounding track. So they've got a bunch of talent. They can push their sound in a bunch of different directions. But yeah, I'm definitely going to keep an eye on them.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I will through you.
Yes.
Because object permanence.
Thank you for throwing that responsibility on me. That's great.
You're a great assistant. I respect and appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. Next up on the show, I have Orange County metallic hardcore outfit Duhkha. It's pronounced, or spelt rather, Duhkha. I believe it might be some kind of like Buddhist name or something like that. But yeah, Duhkha. They are releasing their upcoming debut LP, A Place You Can't Come Back From. Drops on August 9th through Good Fight Music. Now, I came across these guys because the band is kind of a supergroup of sorts.
Okay.
So it's got Keith Barney from 18 Visions, who's playing bass in the band, and he's alongside members of other groups like Seizures, Teeth, and Dangers. So a little bit of a Californian supergroup type deal.
California. Wait, this is an OC reference.
It is indeed.
Hey.
Very good.
I knew, actually. I snuck in. Read your notes
of course,
beforehand.
Yes. So the latest single from the group is called Arrows, and it supports a guest spot from 18 Visions vocalist James Hart. So
shit.
that 18 Visions connection makes sense.
Yep.
I really like the band. I really like the sound. It's like off-kilter metallic hardcore that's very aggressive, but not familiar, I guess. Like it's pushing
Still unique.
Pushing in weird directions.
Progressive.
Yeah, progressive, I guess. Yeah.
Prog metallic hardcore.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Let's have a listen. This is Duhkha, Arrows, featuring James Hart of 18 Visions.
Okay, let's do it.
And these arrows are meant for you.
Thoughts?
So good.
It's so fucking sick.
Holy shit.
It's a very throwback metallic hardcore sound.
Yes.
Very early 2000s.
It's got like somewhere between the sweet spot of like August Burns Red and I Killed the Prom Queen and like a little bit No, I think that's it. I think that's the perfect summary.
Yeah, I think that
It's more progressive though. Instrumentally, it's like way more technical.
yeah, there's like 4 different breakdown, beatdown
Yeah.
sections that are all like slightly like changed up from the previous one. So
Yeah.
that nothing feels repetitive,
No.
but there is that consistent momentum and pulse behind everything. You were talking about the drum sound being very like bass heavy again,
it's
similar to the
it's
previous
funny
track.
the way that 2 very different sounding songs can
Yes.
share a lot of EQ similarities,
For sure.
and that kid is also super like bassy and punchy, and like the hats are kind of more of an accentuation than a main feature of it, and that's just such an interesting mix, I think.
Yeah, and the drums are doing like great stuff towards the end too. Like over that final kind of outro, there's like the little like blast sections.
Yeah.
Everything is just really, really good. It's
Tight
really,
butthole.
really interesting. I think earlier this year, going to see Botch on their final tour and having that nostalgic throwback for like late 90s, early 2000s, you know, metalcore, metallic hardcore that really was like progressive and
Yes.
experimental has
Getting weird with it.
you know, made me kind of nostalgic for this kind of sound.
Tied it back in, baby.
bitch.
That's what
Let's
we
go.
call a callback in the biz.
We are professionals.
We're professionals.
Anyway, keen to hear the record. It sounds dope. Both singles are fucking sick.
Yeah, that was hard. Made me want to go on like a treadmill, you know? I got very specific sounds for how I do
Oh,
gym.
there's
and
like a
that's one of
running,
them.
like jogging rhythm
Oh,
to
it's perfect.
that you could just like
Perfect
vibe
for a
to.
good warm up for sure.
Absolutely.
And then you put on something more thrash to really fucking go into a
Get
sprint.
into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Next up on the show, we're keeping it local, Aussie focused. I've got a track here from Meanjin Brizzy Rockers VERUM. Have you
Oh,
heard
yeah,
of these guys
yeah.
before?
I don't think so.
They're relatively new.
Yeah.
I've kind of had my eye on them for the last few months. Had some stuff suggested to me through Spotify, and I've just been following them through that. But their newest single is probably their best one yet,
Okay.
in my opinion. So the new track is titled Rose. It's out now through Summerland Records. And I would say that the track blends kind of a 2010s like new gaze. So like that new
Ooh.
shoegaze sound with an alt rock kind
Yeah.
of dimension.
So like what were they calling shoegaze recently? That's just not shoegaze.
Deftones.
Oh yeah, just like Deftones.
Yeah,
then?
sure.
Just
yeah.
like Deftones.
But the sound kind of hints at where they're going to take things for their forthcoming EP, which I don't believe has been formally announced, but they're definitely talking about it.
You heard it here first.
That's right. Breaking news. So it's a bold step forward for the band. They have a run of big supports that they've worked through over the last year and a bit. Groups like Wax, Clowns, Press Club, Delta Rigs, a bunch of different acts. On the meaning behind the single, I have a quote here from vocalist and guitarist Caden, who shares, quote, "This is a song dedicated to the solace a relationship with the right person can bring during dark times. It's a love song about the end of the world and how one's love for another can completely remove all worries and anxiety. It's an emotional song that makes you feel happy. It's very close to my heart, an exposed song that's a different direction for us as a band. Sometimes our world can feel like they are imploding around us, and all it takes is one person to pull us out of that hole."
And then they kiss.
So it's a love song. There you go.
That's so cute.
So not only is it
Ah,
shoegaze, which is Deftones, but it's also emo.
yeah, which is Panic at the Disco.
Beautiful. Glad we cleared that up for everyone.
Yeah. Just really defining the genres correctly on this show.
Correctly, as per Reddit. You're welcome. All right, well, let's have a listen. This is VERUM Rose.
All right, let's do it.
What did you think?
I loved it. Did you think of me when you listened to it though?
Yeah, you're my rose.
Thanks. That's all.
Just a bit corny on the pod, but that's
I will
fine.
say that
I love my wife.
I think I miss my wife. I will say that as contrast to the last two tracks, that is more of a high-end mix through the kit, and it was beautiful. They were definitely not just like little spicy accent cymbals. They were like the main event, and it was like the perfect pairing with that particular type of vocal where it's like guttural and like very like fried and emotional. And
See, my attention was very much focused on the vocal line.
Yeah.
So I thought that the chorus is really strong, and I particularly liked what Caden was doing with like the second half of the chorus and how there was a lot of like backup kind of like soft harmonies underneath it to really kind of drag it out and kind of do
he's
that
got a very like
attenuation.
90s grunge sort of vocal sound, and I have missed that, to be honest. It's really beautiful.
I know we were talking about the 2010s like new gaze alt rock like Venn diagram.
Yeah.
And a band that I thinking of when listening to this is Super Heaven.
Yeah.
But back when they used to be called Daylight and they put out a
I
record.
didn't know that.
Yeah, so they were called Daylight. They put out a record called Jar, which is like one of my favorite records of that period. And then they ended up
I know that one song.
the TikTok viral
Yeah,
song.
yeah. But
How's it go?
I did know it before. It's useless. I tried to know it.
I'm just gonna cut in like the Sonic edit of
Yeah,
like old man.
it's that guy doing the Sonic like emo edits near the train tracks. I
Beautiful.
fucking love those videos.
But yeah, I feel like Verum are kind of doing a very similar thing. And in the way that like bands at that point in time were doing like a cyclical kind of reinvention of like a 90s grunge sound. This
Prog 90s grunge.
this is like a 2020s cyclical interpretation of the 2010s stuff, which is an interpretation of the 90s stuff.
Isn't that everything
It's
though?
like the human centipede of like grunge inspiration.
Who knew where it all began? You know, we should have Is there music historians like that will track and trace?
Oh yeah.
Do they have like the little brushes like you do when you go and like excavate, but with
like,
music?
like an archaeological dig.
But
They say like rubbing dust out of a vinyl groove. Like
I was thinking more tape, but you're going back even further.
okay.
Maybe like what are the instruments where you just like pull in the air?
Oh, a theremin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're dusting theremins.
Incredible.
See what sounds come out.
We're really getting derailed with tangents here, but I guess I want to reiterate the song is good.
It's so good.
Love the band.
Yep.
Love what they're working with. Keen to hear more.
Yeah, definitely ready for more of this particular sound.
Yes, indeed.
13-year-old Paige thanks you for this contribution.
Beautiful. Let's move on to the next song for the main show. So we have a new record from Brit Punkers Chubby and the Gang.
I love them.
This one is titled "And Then There Was ... The ellipsis is very important because what comes after "and then there was"?
2, 3, 4.
Who's to say?
Me? You?
Ambiguous.
Who?
Open to interpretation.
It's your choice. You
Yes.
know? Like,
It's a choose your own adventure album title.
yeah, for sure. What's a film that ends ambiguously? And you get to decide, or it's up to you whether they survive or not. Oh,
Mulholland Drive.
yeah. I was thinking more.
Any David Lynch film?
Yeah. I mean, those are way better, more intellectual answers. I was thinking of The Descent. The horror film.
Sure.
Is she still in the fucking cave, though?
Who knows? I think they made a second one, so
Yeah, they did. It's also terrifying. I have confinement like phobia. It's still claustrophobia, FYI, but like, yeah, I get freaked out by like not being able to get out of places easily.
sure.
And that movie makes me feel sick watching it because it's just like that's literally what it's about. So
We were watching
true horror film for
We
me.
were watching a YouTube video on like cave diving accidents.
Yes.
And that was very much the same thing. You were just like,
The
fuck
pit in my
this.
stomach was just like, nah, and I find the idea of cave exploration like really cool as well. I'm a really good climber, weird talent of mine because I never use it.
Humble brag on the pod.
I wouldn't go like bouldering or anything like that good, but like as a kid, I'd be up in them trees all the time. You know what I mean? I don't know what it was.
Where's Paige? In the trees
She's
again.
climbing the fucking trees again.
Okay, so circling back to Chubby and the Gang.
Sure.
The record, And Then There Was, is coming out on October 4th through their new label. So they're now on Flat Spot Records in the US.
Cool.
Stoked for them.
Nice.
The album is 16 songs written and performed by Charlie Manning, who is the aforementioned Chubby.
Chubby.
It was produced by Jonah Falco of Fucked Up and recorded and mixed by James Atkinson. It's
So the gang.
the Gang. That's right.
Right.
It's billed as, quote, a mix of control and chaos, love and loneliness, rage and vulnerability that blends hardcore punk with the most infectious elements of 70s rock and roll and doo-wop.
Me. I am 70s rock and roll and doo-wop.
On the lyrical meaning behind the most recent single, which is called To Be Young, Manning says, quote, when you're 17, you have no idea about life, you just exist. The song is romanticizing that uncertainty. You make so many mistakes and you have no idea that you're doing them.
We were watching The Bear yesterday, and one of the characters said to the other that he was like, what advice would you give you at my age where I am right now? And she was like, I would say, you don't know what the F you are doing, and that kind of makes you invincible. Mm-hmm. And that's what I feel like he's getting at here.
I feel like most 17-year-olds feel invincible because
Oh, yeah.
they just have
In
such
a very stupid way.
They should, you know, if you come from an adjusted...
You're not invincible.
If you come from an adjusted household, like, you have very little responsibility. So
Yeah.
you feel like everything is open to you. You know,
That
that's
must have been nice for you.
I was about to say, that's not a universal experience, but
I think that my thing is that, yeah, at 17, I didn't know what I was doing. But also at 32, I still don't know what I'm doing.
I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
But, you know, write music about it. That's sick.
Yeah. Well, let's have a listen and we can chat about it on the flip. This is Chubby and the Gang, To Be Young.
Let's do it.
You ain't got no future, so why do they care?
Ooh,
Very catchy.
Ooh. I was doing the oohs, the
Oh,
backups.
nice.
Yeah, that was very catchy. And
I don't
fun.
know. I love Chubby's take on, you know, like Britpunk, hardcore
Yeah.
punk, but it does have that, like, I don't know, like power pop catchiness of like the 70s and a little bit of doo-wop in the harmonies, the female vocals. Like, it's great.
Gives the vibe of all the music they played in Eurotrip whenever the footy team came on. Manchester United.
Yeah.
My baby takes them on train. Yeah, but that's not, they played, a lot of this type of music. That's what I think of.
Yeah.
Sue me.
I mean, if this is footy hooligan music, like, cool, that works.
Let's get hooly
Let's get hooly again.
again. Oh, fuck me.
You're welcome. This is why you're watching.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. It's cool. It's an interesting combination of those genres.
Yeah.
And I do think that they, in their little presser, that they described it really well.
Yeah. It's the third full-length album for Chubby.
God, that's crazy.
Yeah, the last one was The Mutts Nuts, which
Yeah.
came out in 2021, kind of before we started the show. But we did see them when
We
they
did.
played the Cooley Hotel
Yeah,
with the
it was
Bronx.
such a good energy too.
So many like old punkers out there just fucking finger pointing.
They definitely were doing these ones, and it was still like at a time where like COVID hadn't really been lifted, the restrictions entirely.
So it was late 2022.
Yeah. And so people weren't ready to get in there and fully go mad. And then by the end of the show, I think we all just were like,
And once the Bronx started, everyone
Yeah.
was like, fuck it.
let's do
go.
it. Yeah. We can't hold back anymore. But it definitely was it was a super fun vibe and like the right venue for those
Yeah, it
particular
was perfect.
artists.
I'd love to see them again.
Me too. For sure.
Next up, I have a fun one for you. So we have a new track from London indie pop songstress Beabadobee.
Love Beabadobee.
And she has put out I fucked that up immediately.
Because we said Beabadobee. Like, it's too hard to say. And then other words after.
It's a real tongue twister. She has put out a euphoric new single taken from her forthcoming studio album, This Is How Tomorrow Moves. That one's coming out on August 16th through Dirty Hit. The track is called Ever Seen, and it was written on the road while she was doing the Eras tour with a little artist called Taylor Swift.
Never heard of her. Just kidding. I fucking stand.
Swifties back
right? It's okay. I love her. She is queen. Fuck you, Dave Grohl. Just kidding. I love you too.
So the track was originally intended to be kind of like a country track that she was working with. That also kind of speaks to her kind of coming up at Glastonbury.
Yeah, right.
So like weird kind of mix of things. I think she kind of stripped all of the countryness out of it. So it's mostly just like a like moody indie pop banger now.
It's always funny to think of any area of England as like rural because it's a like little. So it's weird to think that like, yeah, Glastonbury would be the home of like like a country-esque.
It's a very pastoral kind of like
and
place.
Of course it is, and it's beautiful, and it is. But I think for me, when I think rural, because I'm in this massive like island, that it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to drive about 900 kilometers, and that's rural, you know. And whereas driving 900 kilometers in England is just like to the other side.
I mean, even less. Yeah.
And it's always beautiful the whole way. None of it looks dry and shit. I'm looking at you, Central Queensland.
So the track is described as moody and whimsical, and it reflects Bee's coming of age as she moves into womanhood following 2022's nostalgically youthful Beatopia.
Yeah.
Which we featured on the show, chatted about. I love that record.
Me
Thought
too.
it was great. Keen to play this one for you though. See what you think. This is Beabadobee, Ever Seen.
Beabadobee.
Sat back up and nervous, 'cause you spent some time waiting for your face. Don't wanna risk just making all the same mistakes. The highest I think I've ever been. Said I had the prettiest eyes you've ever seen. He has the prettiest eyes I've ever seen.
You have the prettiest eyes that I've ever seen.
Mm.
Love my wife.
Prettiest eyes I've ever seen. Is that a banjo?
It sounds like a banjo.
Sick.
While we were listening, I was trying to pull up the credits to kind of see if there was like someone contributing banjo there. Couldn't tell, but I did see
Probably not then. Or programmed. But it's
she's got
indecipherable.
Rick Rubin as a producer on this record. So that's fucking crazy.
That's awesome. She is gorgeous.
She's very talented. She has a great voice.
She lives in that beautiful, like breathy, airy sort of
Delicate
like register, and it's just like wild.
Yeah. I can hear, like I'm by no means an authority on Taylor Swift, but I can hear the influence of just like this immaculately conceived pop song. Like the swelling instrumental, the horns.
I can hear
the banjo.
inspiration for sure. I think it's got its own legs though.
Oh,
very separate
completely.
from that.
I just think like when you hear a song like that just sounds so big and fully realized, and then you look at
they did the
notes
maths on
and you're
this
like,
one.
oh, she was opening for Taylor Swift. It's like that tracks. That makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think Taylor's roots in country is obviously a huge part of like where she is today.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to see other artists kind of experiment with that too, I think, because, I think in the early 2000s for sure, like a lot of people were very anti-country music because it was like mostly that kind of pandering country music that was just like people who've never worked a day in their life writing
Insert
songs.
the Bo Burnham song.
Yeah, pandering. Could be speaking Mandarin. It's just straight country pandering.
There we go. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so like I think there was like a lot of hate off the back of that, but like I mean, there is really beautiful country music. And I mean, we wouldn't have Midwest emo without country. So everything is like 2 stitches away from each other at the end of the day. Wake up to yourself.
Yeah, I'm keen to hear the new record. Of all of the singles, that one might be my favorite, I think. Just lyrically, it's so simple and perfect.
Beautiful.
And her voice is stunning.
She sounds like she could be a pixie in a forest. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's cute. And she's in love with a human man. And they have this weird conflict because she's teeny tiny. And he's a big man, like a full-grown man. She's just a little pixie. And they're in love. And he's got beautiful eyes. The end.
Wow.
Tune in next week.
More fan fiction from Paige in the next episode of the show. Next up, we have a band that we featured all the way back in 2022. I can't remember if it was before we started the show or not, and I didn't bother to do the homework, so sorry.
Either way, before we went as grey as we are.
Correct. So we featured a band from Seattle called Fixtures. They were a post-hardcore outfit, and they released a 4-track live EP.
Yeah.
That release kind of channeled the angular sounds of like Fugazi.
Yeah.
These Arms Are Snakes, that very like 90s post-hardcore sound.
Yeah.
Well, I got an email in my inbox from the group. They are now going by the name No Edits.
Ooh.
But I believe the lineup is still the same. They just
So they
changed.
didn't do any edits.
They did not. They changed the name, and the mathy, angular, post-hardcore sound is still there.
Nice.
But they have a new album called We All End Up the Same, and it's dropping on August 9th. So I wanted to feature them again on the newsletter and the pod. They've dropped 2 singles from the release, and of the 2, my favorite is the Serpentine Time You Kill. So I'm going to play that one
That's
for
a
you.
sick title. Okay, cool.
So this is No Edits, Time You Kill.
Okay.
But you sat within the sound. Never knew it for what it was. It's a surrender. But you never see it. You
I loved the change up in the little instrumental outro there. Like it kind of lulled in and out of that throughout the song, and to put it kind of as you leave it was just interesting.
Yeah, I think like my introduction to the band and the feature that we had on the last time we had them on the newsletter was that live EP.
Yeah.
And what I love about this is like they still harness and capture that live sound even on like a studio record.
Yeah, definitely.
It definitely just sounds like a bunch of like musicians dialed the fuck in in a jam room, just like on
I remember
their
that
shit.
in that EP. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Just like letting all the juice.
Yeah. And it's just like really good mix, really good stop start, rhythmic changes. The lead guitar line is like super catchy.
Does he have kind of a Hopes Fall sounding vocal?
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
Just like that really
not the
beautiful.
first reference I thought of, but I could see it.
No, but like, because the band doesn't sound like Hopes Fall.
No.
But specifically his vocal is like that really cool, interesting, like I don't want to call it nasally. I want to call it like glandularly. Like it's very
Glandularly.
throaty.
You heard it here, folks. Glandularly.
But yeah, it's just like, it's a really beautiful, interesting inflection, tonality.
I
to
just
his
think
voice.
it's obviously, well, maybe not obvious to anyone else, but to me, it's obvious that like the songwriting has improved for like a lyrical standpoint, because I think like this is like the hookiest that I've heard them.
I would,
And that
agree
chorus
with that.
line is like really great. And that line of like, see it through to the end, make regret your only friend.
Yeah.
Like, that's really catchy. and it works. And for a song about, time you kill, like, I don't know, it just works. And I think like they've obviously been working hard on a little bit of a rebrand for the band. Relatable. And
Same.
I think it has paid off because this
Yeah.
is like the strongest material I've heard from them. And I'm really glad that they sent it through to me.
Yeah.
So,
Feels like they put their whole Ussies on the track.
yeah. So shout out to Kyle in No Edits.
Love you, Kyle.
And keen to hear the record when it drops.
Yeah, me too. This
Hell
is
yeah.
definitely a strong start.
So returning to Meanjin / Brisbane once again, we
Brazil.
have an upcoming EP from alt rockers Sunbleached.
Mm-hmm.
Featured these guys a couple of times in the newsletter. Most recently, I think maybe last year sometime. But they have a new EP called I Crawled Into the Hole coming out on August 30th. The EP was produced and recorded with longtime collaborator Dylan Cote.
Yep.
And their lead single is called White Lace. And it was written from the perspective of vocalist Josh Baker, who, prior to being against the idea, finally gave in to tradition and married his sweetheart.
Oh, and that's the white lace.
Mm-hmm.
Aww.
So the song explores how belief and opinions can change depending on circumstance. And I've got a quote from Baker on that.
Hit me with it.
He says, I got married earlier this year, which is not something my wife and I had ever considered to be in our futures. We've historically been very anti-tradition and anti-marriage. The first verse of the song describes coming to terms with giving into tradition and wanting to get married after being so anti-marriage for so many years. I feel like people can be so high and mighty with some of the beliefs we carry.
Yeah. It can be hard to renege on things that you've been steadfast on, for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's any shame in doing that. Revising your own opinions and not being like a fuddy-duddy is a good thing.
No, we got married during COVID.
We did.
Kind of right before we started the show.
Yeah.
And we kind of had a similar thing where we were like...
We had white lace.
We did. But we were like, we're getting married not out of any kind of like need to stick to tradition. It was more like
We are best friends.
we are best friends. We love each other.
And we have a bunch of best friends and we all like to party together.
Yeah, it was
so-
more of an excuse to like celebrate that love and
Yeah.
to celebrate it with people that we love.
Yeah.
And it was like tradition be damned. Like we got married in a
We
bar,
did literally
so-
nothing about it traditional,
Yeah.
except for the white lace. So
And I'm a firm supporter of like, if you want to get married, do it whatever way you
however
choose.
you feel, yeah. Or if you don't want to get married, don't get married.
If you just want to go to the courthouse and sign a document and then go on a
Because
pub crawl.
It's about you
Yes.
guys, and how you feel about each other.
So I definitely can relate to the message of the song that Josh is talking about because, like, I wouldn't say I'm anti-tradition and I'm certainly not anti-marriage, but I can understand how those two things are very strongly correlated.
I can understand being anti-oppressive nuclear family
Yes.
and not following kind of social pressures on you,
Yeah.
but should never be at the at loss of the love you have for your
it shouldn't come
favorite
at-
person.
It shouldn't come at the expense of your own joy.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I think despite, the way capitalism co-ops everything and kind of made this beast out of what marriage was,
The marriage industry is
booming.
fucked.
It's doing well, and we've all paid a lot of money to it. But I think, like, at the very core of it, what capitalism can't take away from it is that it really is just about two people who
Yes.
love each other. And I fucking love weddings, and I just think they're sweet and romantic. And we've been to so many now, and they're all different.
Yeah.
Every single one has been that person's personality.
Yeah.
And that's like my favorite part of it.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, let's have a listen to the track and then we can chat about it on the other side. This is Sunbleached, White Lace.
Okay, I'm keen.
What makes my place in flowers in summer? Love's race your bright face for every hour. I had a dream I met you and none knew that days would never run. I'll take your hand, we walk through the gardens. I told you things you never told anyone. And no one.
I loved it. It's so
very pretty.
Oh my gosh. What a great, like, like track to play at the wedding. You know what I mean?
Oh man,
Like this is a good like everyone on the dance floor moment.
it's very
Move out of the way, Mr. Brightside. This is the new white people wedding
It's the new
track.
anthem.
Did I just drop the white people wedding track of the summer?
Boop, 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 boop,
Doo, doo,
boop.
doo, doo. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's really
It's gorgeous. It's like, you know, fuzzed out, dreamy.
fun. But with these really clear melodic little riffs that sit kind of in the back of the mix at the top of the EQ, really pretty that kind of like scratch your skull hole.
yeah, and again, like the
Because
chorus.
we all have skull holes, you know.
Skull hole, yes, technical term.
It just came out of my mouth.
The chorus is really strong.
Yeah.
And I like, you know, Josh's cadence and kind of how he's like
beautiful.
building the different lyrical lines. It just works with like the rhythm of the song. I just love everything about it. I really, really enjoy Sunbleached. And I think
Yeah, me
they're
too.
like a really promising band. I'm keen to hear the new EP. I just want them to make an album already. So like, let's do that.
Yeah, we'll be here waiting.
Yes.
Actually, we're not going to move from this spot until it's out.
For Australian listeners and watchers, they have announced that they will be featured on the Big Sound 2024 lineup in
Yay.
September. So they're playing with bands like Stand Atlantic, Sly
That's
Withers,
sick.
Dear Seattle, Bellhaven, and many more. Then they're also going on a short run with Boston Manor when they're in the country.
No way.
And they're playing a small run of shows in Newcastle, Canberra, and Geelong.
Aw,
So, yeah, you can see him on the road. You can see him at Big Sound.
I'm
you can
happy
listen
for
to the
them.
EP.
That's really sick.
Yeah.
Making money moves.
Making
you
the
know what I
big
mean?
money
yeah,
moves.
out there.
Uh,
The big sound money moves.
great. Good job.
Yes.
So, final song for our Mosh Pithy segment this week. Back in May, I was gushing about a band from London called Lowen.
Mm-hmm.
No relation. Who
Owen Lowen. You're a dickhead.
and I was gushing about how they mixed like a really crushing progressive doom metal sound
Yeah.
with this lyrical focus on like cosmic lore and
It's nerd shit.
and the history of the Middle
Yeah,
East.
for sure.
Very nerd shit.
Yeah.
Very specific
But,
nerd
like,
shit.
It's also kind of like talking about really serious things as well
Absolutely.
and really hitting on like beats that are important to talk about.
And just a really idiosyncratic sound. Like
Yeah.
they don't really sound like anyone else, which I think really stands in their favor. So I hinted at it back when we had them on the pod in May, but they formally announced the release of their sophomore LP,
Yay.
which is titled Do Not Go to War with the Demons of Mazandaran.
What's that mean?
So from memory, Mazandaran was like a king or
Is this Roman Empire shit again?
no. So this
Oh,
is very
okay.
this is like very specific to like the Middle East and like the ancient history of like Iran.
Wow.
Yeah. So they have a second single from the LP, and I've got a quote here from vocalist Nina Saidi, who states, quote, "The seed that dreamed of its own creation," which is the name of the single, "is written and sung entirely in Farsi, the language of Iran.
Wow.
The song is about Azi Dahaka, a serpent tyrant from ancient Iranian mythology that is overthrown after a violent reign of chaos, drought, and instability. Zoroastrian eschatology is considered one of the oldest on earth, and I was loosely inspired by its descriptions of the end of the world, but I wanted to introduce an element of hope to the song as well."
So it's a rainbow serpent, if you will.
Yeah, I guess you could read it that way. The film clip for the track is like super striking as well. It features Nina in kind of like this blood red hue, and there's like Farsi script being
Wow.
written on her. And I was reading another quote that talks about how the words are all like strength and violence, resilience,
Huh.
and stuff, and it's all about the struggle of women under the current kind of like government of Iran
Yeah.
and like this patriarchal pressure that's put on the women of that culture.
Can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this band. Like they're heavy, they're progressive,
And informative.
they're nerdy as shit.
Yeah.
The artwork is crazy. But then also like Nina has
No holds barred, is that the term?
yes.
Yeah.
Nina has like phenomenal vocals, really
Insanely
like
talented.
like
yeah.
it's just a great band all around.
Yeah.
So I wanted to feature them again.
Okay. All right.
So
I'm G'd up.
Let's jump into that. This is Lowen, the seed that dreamed of its own creation.
Thanks, Owen.
All right, so Paige has done some homework. She wants to educate us.
Well.
Well.
I can't ever say the word for the very like Middle Eastern wailing noise. And I also know that there's a native word for it in their tongue, but I struggle to say the English word. And it's like ululating. I'm pretty sure that's right, but I'm just going to get this chicks from Google to say it for me.
Ululating.
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 You see, it's hard,
So
man.
that's that like warbling kind of like
that wail.
variation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's such an interesting, like, I would say that it's bringing together themes that are quite Western musically and mixing them with Middle East, although everything came from the Middle East, so what the fuck am I talking about? But it's such a like modern sound with these really beautiful traditional sounds.
Yeah.
And Farsi is such a gorgeous language.
It's incredible. And like we've talked about this on the pod before, but like I'm constantly kind of stunned when I listen to bands outside of like, the Western countries, right? That are predominantly English. So like, one of my favorite bands is a band like Kavel Attack. And
Yes.
they sing almost exclusively in Norwegian and a very specific dialect of Norwegian that comes from
Like you
northern-
can't, we've tried to translate certain lyrics before
Doesn't work.
because they're like a really good catch and you're just like, no, it doesn't make any sense.
But the thing that stuns me about it is like that can still hold my attention when lyrical comprehension is like completely thrown out the window.
I think that there's something pretty magical about the way that humans sometimes we don't need to speak the same language to really connect with each other.
Music can connect on like a deeper lizard brain level.
Yeah.
That like removes that need for like lyrical comprehension. So like you can listen to Nina singing in Farsi. I'm not a Farsi speaker, but I'm still captivated
But I'm in
anyway.
awe of how beautiful this is. And you can hear the pain. And I think anyone who knows what's happening in the world right now can understand the pain.
Yes.
And yeah, it's just this hauntingly beautiful song with these huge, big runs and then refrains. And like, it's theater kid shit. It's like knowing how to take something and make people feel shit,
Yeah, I
know? And it's just talent. That's the only thing I could say about
Yeah.
it. Really moved me.
I'm really looking forward to the record. So do not go to war with, is it the gods of Mazandaran?
Yeah,
Maybe I should check that.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
With the demons of Mazandaran. See, I fucked it up.
The
I should've checked.
demons of Mazandaran.
Yes. So once again, Do Not Go to War with the Demons of Mazandaran is out on October 4th through the good folks over at Church Road Records. So shout out to Sammy once again for sending that through all the way back in May, because this is one of my highly anticipated records of the year.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And also not to like minimize how powerful this song is with something stupid, but that's kind of my shtick. It reminds me of the way that everyone keeps showing babies the videos of like cartoon cats crying with the audio of just like meow, 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 meow. And it's like, it's the fucking Barbie song by Billie Eilish. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow,
Okay.
meow. And the babies just keep crying at it. and everyone's like, what are they hearing that we don't? But it's paired with a video of a bunch of crying cats being like bullied by other cats and shit. And it's like, no, they're just like seeing sad things happen to cute kittens. That's sad, objectively sad.
This is like a corner of the internet that I'm just like blissfully unaware of.
Point being is we can connect with music, even if we don't all speak the same.
Okay, cool. It was a bit of a stretch, but I'm glad you brought us home there. Thank you.
You're welcome. Stuck the landing.
That is the end of Mosh Pithy for this week. So I hope listeners and watchers have enjoyed our video run through.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's the tradition. We're going to the next bit.
Should we swing on over to heavy metal and do our feature album for the show?
This has been Paige and Owen, and you're watching The Pitch of Discontent.
Beautiful. Nailed it. First take.
Let's go. Bring the beat in.
Okay, so for heavy metal this week,
The piece de resistance.
the feature album belongs to another homegrown act. This time it is Gold Coast screamo sensation Blind Girls.
Southport hardcore. Southport hardcore.
I don't believe they're from Southport.
No, but that's what everyone screams at the
Shout out
shows.
Southport, I guess.
I think we're all spiritually from Southport.
We've said that before. These guys are one of the consistently hardest working bands in Australian heavy music.
Yeah, they definitely are.
They're playing shows all the time, constantly grinding out tours. All of their shows are phenomenal. I've seen them
Great energy.
support like a whole bunch of different bands. Like they're just a great
And just,
hard-working
like,
outfit.
Such a captivating leading lady.
Yes.
Like, just, you can't look away from their performance.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you're just kind of like, whoa. But, that's just my opinion, I guess.
Yeah, no, that intensity on stage is definitely captured on record as well.
Yeah.
Which is what we're here to talk about. So they have a new album called An Exit Exists.
Mm-hmm.
I featured one of the singles on the pod a couple of weeks ago on one of the episodes where you were absent and it was just
Yeah.
me chatting. But I
I
talked
had
about
the
them.
plague.
That's true. I talked about them then, and the album is out now through Persistent Vision Records with
Cool.
exclusive vinyl variants through Touche Amore frontman Jeremy Bone's
Shut
label,
up.
Secret Voice, as well as a national staple here in Australia, Life Lair Regret Records.
I just feel like such a sense of like, I knew they were going to make it.
Well, I mean, they've been making it for a while,
Yeah.
but no, you're right.
But
They
there's
are
a
making
sense of like, I think as a fan of a band, when you like just watching every single milestone feels like a win for the whole fan base.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're all in it with you and we're here, kind of, what's the word? Championing you?
They're,
Why can't I fucking talk? It's like the one job I have on this show.
no, they are our Kylie.
They are our Kylie. That's so true. The
So
icons.
we've seen them a bunch of times. The two shows that stick out in my head are the main support that they did for La Dispute
Yeah, it
at the
was
Princess
so
Theatre.
good. Yeah.
Brilliant show,
Yeah.
great venue, great sound. That was a really captivating show.
That was such a good show.
They were also on the lineup for Cold Day in Brisbane,
Yes.
which was last year's inaugural fest. They were great there too.
And it was cold in Brisbane
in Brisbane.
on that day.
Yes. If you're interested in that fest, go listen to our episode with Pip and Adam
Yeah.
talking about this year's lineup. Great episode.
10 out of 10.
I'm going to play two deep cuts from the record and we can kind of chat about the sound of the record and kind of how it matches that intensity live on stage.
Yeah.
So the first song I have for you, this is Blind Girls, Make Me Nothing.
Okay.
God damn, this band,
Far
man.
out. That's on some other shit.
Yeah, they capture so well the kind of like tortured experience
Yeah.
that screamo is kind of intended to deliver, right? Like it's very, as you said before, like theater kid shit.
Yeah.
It's dramatic. It's almost melodramatic, but it's delivered in such an
It's
intense
safe.
and visceral way
Yeah.
that you can't help but be kind of captivated
And moved.
with what's going on.
I mean, I guess some people can help it, but I don't know what the fuck's wrong with them.
Yeah.
That was insane. I think that was probably the most melodic I've heard them in instrumental, and I loved that. It kind of gave this like that one Whitechapel track they did that was like all clean and melodic, and it kind of gave that sound instrumentally, and then paired with her like, I mean, she doesn't sound like anyone.
No.
She sounds like her, and it's sick and it's unique and guttural and like earth shattering, you know? It's like the most dramatic scene of any play you've ever seen where like your main female lead is just like losing her mind a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
It's giving Ophelia, if you know what I mean.
I've got some notes here that like vocalist Shani Brewer, she has like this banshee shriek.
Yeah.
This like wailing, I'm going to use that word again, tortured kind of expression.
But controlled.
But it punctuates the record in such a way that she like processes a range of emotions stemming from a bunch of abusive relationships.
Yeah.
I've got a quote here from Shani where she says, "An Exit Exists was written during and after two separate instances dealing with abuse from those I loved. Each song is a reflection on the emotions and process that I went through, from realization, feeling trapped, guilt, defeat, acceptance, and eventually finding a safe way
There
out."
was an exit.
Which I think, like, if you reflect on the song that we just listened to, like that break in the middle where she's just repeating that refrain of like, make me nothing, make me nothing.
Yeah, it's
And it gets
haunting.
more like fucking
Visceral.
And the scream intensifies.
Passionful, yeah.
And you kind of lose kind of that kind of clarity of vocal as
The
it goes into it.
dictation is very intentionally lost because
Yes.
it's getting lost in the
But
emotion of
the
it.
instrumental like has that like stop start staggered effect.
Yes.
It builds and swells to what could be an explosive crescendo, and instead
And then
it
peels back
it
into
opens right
a
up.
more of a melodic outro.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
And
Yeah.
I like that subversion, you know, like take something that's going to be like a cathartic explosion and then instead just let it dissipate.
simmer. Well, I would say that is actually really akin to the experience of an abusive relationship because
Okay.
what it's like, or at least what it was like for me, is being at this level of adrenaline constantly.
Right.
So like you're always up here, you're always at the precipice of an explosion because your abusive partner is always at the precipice of explosion. You're on edge the
You're
entire
matching that
time.
energy, yeah.
Yeah, you're waiting for it. At any minute it can happen. It can happen over fucking anything, no matter how hard you try to keep things calm.
Keep a lid on it.
Yeah. And what's really weird and maybe not really talked about much is that when it does end, because you've been in that state, you actually get addicted to your own stress hormones. And so you start like I've been addicted to a few things. So
Spoilers.
just a bit of a comparison to those addictions. It's weirder when it's something that your brain's creating chemically.
Yeah.
So it's not like you just walk away from the relationship and the stress hormones level out immediately and go back to normal, but everything around you is. You're not on the precipice of explosion anymore, but you still feel that.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden like that, things peel down and they start to kind of fade away. And I just think it's a really interesting, and I could be completely fucking wrong with this interpretation, but like it feels like instrumentally, lyrically, vocally, it's a perfect example of what it can be like to kind of go from these extremes of extreme intensity, abuse, emotional heightened state, and then in an instant you do find where the exit is. You take the exit and it is kind of mellow and it peels away. And you're very aware of it because you're still emotionally heightened. So you're like, why do I still kind of go to like, oh, I better not do that? And then you're like, I can do that actually.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of how the song feels for me. It's really cool.
That's really sick.
Yeah.
That was a good close reading.
Yeah, maybe too close.
A plus.
Thank you. All right, what's next though?
I have another track for you. So this is another deep cut off the back end of the record. And let's just jump straight into it and then we can kind of chat about it on the other side. This is Blind Girls, AI generated love letter.
Okay. That's a sick name.
So I think the intro there and the reason why I selected this song, one, the title is cool as hell.
Yeah.
So that stuck out. And then the intro or like the first like 30 seconds of that track, I'm going to use the technical term skronky is how it sounds.
Scrunky. I'm a little bit glonky.
It is a real like bitches brew of just like the dark.
Not witches, bitches?
The bitches brew.
Right.
You know like Miles Davis?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Bitches brew.
For sure, of course.
Yeah, it's like this real like concoction of all the dark and intense sounds that the band are pulling from. You know, you hear shades of hardcore, shades of contemporary screamo, 90s emo violence.
But do you hear the peppering of like this really beautiful high-end melodic element on the top? It's subtle and like even their distorted ring outs have like this strange little accent note in there. If you listen, it's pretty. It's really beautiful.
It just makes everything sound very melancholic.
Yeah.
Which is, again, like a defining trait of screamo, I would say, particularly like this vein of screamo.
Shocker. Screamo. Sad.
Weird.
You heard it here first.
Jinx. Yeah, I love this record. I think to kind of wrap things up, like Blind Girls have been like a bit of Australia's best kept secret for a long time. But they
Pretty
are
bad secret.
They are currently kicking off a coast to coast month-long US run as we speak. And they're playing with Frail Body, Great
Yes.
Falls, Heavenly Blue, No Man, Page 99, the fucking Screamo Gods.
The The States won't know what hit them.
Yeah, and I mean they've toured the US before, but I
Yeah,
think this run,
that's true. They will know.
this run in particular is like, you know, a month long, super stacked, couple of fests thrown in there.
You're
And
going to be
just-
knackered by the end of that.
I just love seeing an Australian band win. You
Me
know?
too,
Like,
for
sick
sure.
record coming out on some of their like, you know, contemporaries labels, playing a bunch of sick shows. Like, you just love to see it.
You do. It's honestly great.
And this is like
We don't tall poppy here, for example.
No, fuck that. No, this is like
This
a
is the
world
best.
class screamo record.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
And we should be proud. We should be backing this.
Yes, I think absolutely. It's actually un-Australian to not back Blind Girls.
Yes.
So
That's it.
fight me in the comments. Or don't. I'm actually really sensitive.
She is. On that note, that's the end of the show.
It is.
So,
we did it.
Thank you.
Vibes were good. Great songs.
Yes.
Thanks for being with us and chilling out today.
Thanks for kind of like going through the video episode.
Yeah, hope it's good. We're keen to hear like what you guys think too.
Yeah, drop some feedback in the comments.
Absolutely would love any sort of guidance anyone has
Let-
because we don't know what we're fucking doing, but that does make us invincible.
But I am invincible.
Yeah, so
But yeah, we're going to keep doing these. You can expect guest episodes coming out as well.
yeah, there's some
Similar
good
type
ones.
format.
Yeah.
Like I said at the start of the show, if you want to support what we're doing, jump down into the show notes, go check out the Patreon. I might even put in some donation links if you want to do like the one-time donation thing. I don't know.
It's
I'll-
tips.
I'll figure this
Is
out
what I
as I go
believe
along.
that you are looking for.
Thank
yes.
you. But all of the links will be in the show notes. Drop us a comment, follow the show.
Subscribe. Like honestly, like it's tough out there, so I understand that monetary support isn't always easy.
Sure.
But like literally everything helps. Sharing, liking, subscribe. You've heard it from every creator you love before. we're not as big as them. So believe it when we say it here.
Yeah,
It
100%.
really matters for us. So
Do you want to wrap it up there?
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. Peace.
Woo.